Hi, good morning. A very good morning to you, all of you, on this March 22nd, which is celebrated all over the world as World Water Day. The World Water Day celebrations began actually in 1993 based on a decision by the United Nations. This observance of World Water Day was the primary intention is to inform one and all, the policymakers, the administrators, the citizens, the young children going to school, and even old people, seniors, that water is a very essential commodity for the survival of the civilization. Well, like every resource, distribution of water is extremely uneven on the planet Earth. So every year, the United Nations agency like UNICEF will come up with a slogan around which the World Water Day will be celebrated by many means, as many means as possible, by actually doing some propaganda type lectures, then marches, then cleaning. Yes, cleaning is very important because the bad things in the water will definitely ultimately reach through the food into humans, which is harmful for the humans. So, in this fashion, the World Water Day was being celebrated every year. And of course, naturally, it may not get a lot of support from areas of the world where water is plenty. Well, however, this year's slogan, as it is called, is preserve glaciers. Well, for Indians, at least the modern Indian students, the glaciers are a known domain. Himalayas, even though we knew, we studied, we chanted slogans or songs about the Himalayas. We were told in the school, Himalayas is called Himalayas because this is the abode of Himavan. Well, those days, in my younger days, Himavan, or probably even today, Himavan is also considered as a protector of the people and civilization in the peninsular Indian region. In addition to being the abode, the home of huge and vast frozen water. When water freezes, finally, we are all familiar with what is called ice, because most people have some kind of a contact one time or other with ice, because we also know that ice is made in our own homes in the refrigerator. Whereas in nature, when the ice is made, it doesn't come in the form of ice. Very occasionally, very sparsely, ice or frozen rain, as it is called, water drops forming the rainwater will freeze into ice and it hits the ground. And it is called a hailstorm because by the meteorologist, because this storm is very bad in the sense it can destroy crops. In other words, it is like throwing continuously large number of stones over a field where we are cultivating rice, wheat or paddy or whatever, those crops, primary crops, or the cash crops, so it can cause damage. It's a very rare event. And In fact, especially in the south, in the southern part of India, like Kerala and Tamil Nadu, we don't get an opportunity to see the snow. Yes, that is the intermediate particle between water or the moisture in the atmosphere and the ice that sits on the ground. And what is snow? Well, we are all familiar with snow. There is some kind of, used to be, or even today, some foundational makeup for human face, on the human face. So we had that foundation called snow, which is so smooth and soft. Yeah, so smooth and soft. That underline those. This is called what is called as snow. And then another thing is, what is the natural snow? Well, only in the Himalayan region or only in the higher altitudes and latitudes, snow is common. When we get in the tropical area or in the subtropics, drops of rain coming down as rainwater and creating either a flood or a normal rainfall, in the higher latitudes and longitudes, what descends from the atmosphere is snow. Snow is flaky. Snow has a crystallography. I don't want to elaborate what crystallography is. And the snow is actually the kind of precipitation that happens in the lower atmosphere and descending to the earth. Snow, in other words, our water on the ground, it can either come down as snow or as a hailstorm or as a heavy downpour. So this snow in the higher latitudes and altitudes will not melt. That is the problem. It will stay back as snowflakes because of the temperature. If the temperature is below 4 degrees Celsius, it remains as a solid. Only difference is when we have a huge pile of snow sitting at one place, sitting in a field, let us say 2 or 3 meters, the weight of the snow itself, the snow sheet itself, will start exerting pressure to the bottom layers where the snow will melt and then refreeze into what is called ice. Our glaciers are all ice with a lacing of snow. And these days, with the proliferation of all kinds of photographic equipments, most people have seen how a snowflake is, how an ice field is, how is Antarctica, how is Arctic, how is Greenland, how is, of course, Hindu Kush mountains, or the Himalayan mountains with the snow cover, etc., etc. We are not, especially because of the information communication revolution, most things are very familiar to all. Only thing is, what happens to snow? I said snow will become ice and it will provide a storage of water. And one of the things we have to keep in mind is, for example, take for Himalayas. We have a snow line in the Himalayas. The snow line is somewhere around 11,000 feet or so from mean sea level. And the snow line is not a permanent line. It is just like sea level, it is also fluctuating. It may go up if the air temperature is warmer compared to previous years, or the snow line will come down if the air temperature is lower. So, what it means is, snow line is the so-called a tentative elevation. It is not a permanent thing because I said it is fluctuating. A tentative elevation, approximate elevation, above which there will always be permanent snow in the ground. And that's how Himalayas got its own name. The snow will, like I said, pointed out earlier, the snow will transform to ice. These are the glaciers or ice sheets. Glaciers, we have, for example, Tibetan Plateau has a plateau glacier. If you went to Uttarakhand or any part of the so-called Himalayas, the Assam Himalayas, or in the Kashmir Himalayas, at the above the snow line, we will find valley glaciers. In what are they? The water is not in the flowing mode. It is actually in the solid mode in those valleys, and there are ice at the bottom with a thin lacing of snow at the top. Well, this is the snow. Now, what is the benefit of the snow? This is the snow that attracts the so-called skiers. Snow skiing is a big sport all over in Northern Europe, North America, and so on and so forth. It is catching up. At least some people are making attempts to do snow skiing in India. So this year's theme is snow, actually preservation of glaciers. Well, when a new slogan like preservation of glaciers is introduced, it also rings a bell. In other words, someone somewhere in the research lab, either in the field or in the laboratory, has discovered that our glaciers the ice in the glacier is wasting. What is the wastage? Wastage is in the form of water. Well, you will be not or you will be familiar or not. Whether are you familiar or not? The Greenland ice sheet. Greenland is a very large island. Well, these days, after Mr. Trump assuming office, we heard something printed about Greenland. And Greenland, though it is called Greenland, it should have been called White Land, because only along the fringes, along the coastal area, the Greenland has soil and rock exposed and appropriate vegetation is exposed. The rest of the area is completely covered under snow and ice. It's a huge ice sheet. Some group of scientists have made an estimate that if the entire Greenland ice sheet is melting over to water, and all the waters, because it is an island and a land, they will naturally go to the ocean, to the North Atlantic. Well, of course, all the oceans are connected. You know what the prediction is? The sea level will rise by 60 or 65 feet. Imagine the Greenland ice sheet on its melting, and total transformation to water will flood the coastal area of all the continents and islands. But don't worry about anymore. At the event of melting of the what is called the Greenland ice sheet, there won't be any money. That is the problem. Our Lakshadweep will not be there. It will be underwater. Sea level is going to rise not only in Atlantic, in the Northern Indian Ocean, Central Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean. All the major oceans, Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Ocean, all will be going up, elevation. Of course, don't worry about it too much, because our scientific community is always at work, and they are now looking for monitoring the sea level rise. Yes, not along the shoreline of the different continents or island nations, but on the seas itself. There is a satellite called SWOT, which is a satellite that will map, a combined effort of NASA and the European Union group called Copernicus. This satellite has sensors, and it is orbiting the Earth for several years now, and is continue for another several years. Then it is monitoring the level of the ocean, not only along the coastal area, but also in the deep down central part. And of course, the message we get is not very encouraging. Sea level is rising. Not of the order of meters or feet, but at least by decimal millimeters per year. It is a huge thing. Decimal millimeter. 73% of the planet Earth is water covered. So it's a huge volume. So then think about the glaciers in the North Pole, Arctic region. India has an Arctic glaciology or Arctic geology program. We have our scientists, including from Kerala, working there. We have also another program in what is called Antarctica, and the Indian lab is called Gangotri, Dakshina Gangotri, and there is a team of scientists who live there throughout the year. You know, we are all worried about, we were all aware of Sunita Williams spending unexpectedly 9 months in the International Space Station. And she came back safe. That's a different thing, thanks to the scientists, science and technology. Well, of course, if you want to thank Lord Ayyappa or Lord Muruga, you can do it, but they are incapable of doing, so rescuing Sunita Williams. For that, we need only science. Now, what about Antarctica? Antarctica also has a huge ice sheet. These ice sheets, sitting in the Arctic, sitting in the Antarctic, they are holding a huge volume of water. And the melting of these ice, the glaciers there, that is going to create havoc, and probably it will be a catastrophe for most of the people living in the continents. You know, the things happening in the North Pole and South Pole, Arctic Circle and Antarctica, they are going to affect the tropical India, tropical nations of the world. Now, that is the whole point. That kind of knowledge mostly evades most people. You know, that is what happens always in all over the countries, all over the world. Now we are all aware of two poles, North Pole and South Pole. Scientists have now identified a third pole, which is called the Hindu Kush Mountains. Hindu Kush Mountains is a huge area covered with snow at the top and a huge thick ice sheet. And if the Earth's surface temperature, due to climate change, atmospheric warming, due to burning everything that comes across us, including fossil fuel, so on and so forth, will warm the lower atmosphere, and that will affect first, as far as we are concerned, the third pole of the world. This is not the second pole, north, south, no. We have a third pole, which is called the Hindu Kush mountain ice sheet. This ice sheet, if it disappears, it will affect Iran, Afghanistan, Baluchistan, then India, Nepal, Tibet, including China. The melt of the Hindu Kush ice sheet will release huge volumes of water, and that water will flood in these countries initially. Flood is a threat, a natural disaster, people will suffer. Flood also removes huge volumes of fertile soil, transports it to the oceans, and it is lost permanently for the humanities for raising different crops. So, what happens now? Once the ice is all over in Hindu Kush, the next phase is no more water. No more water to charge the rivers in Pakistan, Baluchistan, Afghanistan, India, Nepal, including China and Tibet. Then these nations will go through, the affected nations will go through a phase of drought, waterlessness. So, that is even worse. There will be migration of people from waterless regions to water available regions. So water is a very important commodity. Keep in mind what we have to see. That is one of the reasons that we have to consider water with reverence. Water is a precious resource. Water is an unavoidable resource for the survival of humanity. All the organisms and all the vegetation, including what is called, whatever you call, right from virus all the way to the elephants, the largest animal in the world, living in the current living world. So, water is very essential. And suppose, for example, if we run out of water, let us say, well, we are going to run out of water, that is true. No, we are all aware of the climate of India, not quite well, because our awareness of climate and some essential things are very poor because of our education policy, the content in the syllabus. Anyway, India is a very large country in the first place. 3 million plus square kilometers of an area India has. Well, Kerala is only 33,000 plus square kilometers. Okay? India is 3 million plus 3 million, 2.3 or 3.2 square million kilometers. Well, all of us think in Kerala, let us say, I quote Kerala, that India will get a lot of rain. India gets a lot of rain. We are waiting for the rain in the month of April and also for the monsoon rains. The monsoon season brings into Indian continent 80% of the quota of rainfall per year. 80% of the rainfall occurs during months of June and September. That is the important thing. Most people know or may not know. Number two, in India, there are 5 different climate zones. And, most of us think that the Kerala region has a monsoon climate. Well, there is a Koppen, Koppen scheme of climate classification, which has rarely occurred so far in the school syllabus or college syllabus. I guess now, these days, it may be included in the syllabus. Well, keep in mind one thing, Munnar gets 6,000 millimeters of rainfall. Then, New Delhi gets 1,000 millimeter or less than 1,000 millimeters of rainfall, or 100 centimeters. Rajasthan is less than 10 centimeters or 100 millimeters of rainfall. Assam gets as much rain as we get. The central India, from Rajasthan downward to easterly to western UP, including Delhi, through Madhya Pradesh, western Madhya Pradesh, eastern Maharashtra, western Andhra, eastern Karnataka, and all the way down to Tirunelveli and Thoothukudi, we have the semi-arid belt. And what is the problem? This is the region, this is a huge region. Something like 40,000 kilometer area is covered. And the problem is, here the highest rainfall range is 10 centimeter to 100 centimeters. In Munnar, 600 centimeters. So this is the problem. So if our rains fail, if our water supply only from natural sources like rainfall and snow melt, if there is a change in the climate, then what happens is our country will become a water-stressed country, which already is. That is the problem. We say, for example, Trivandrum has something like 2770 millimeter average annual rainfall. See, there is what is called evapotranspiration taking place all over the country. Evapotranspiration is loss of water from the soil and from the leaves of the vegetation. You know what it is? 1700 millimeter. So what is the water balance from the rainfall? 700 minus 1700. This 1700, there were, as far as I know, because I am not familiar with yesterday's literature, this was a paper, in a paper it was published by two scientists of Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, Pune. They had a contour map of, in other words, contour map is a map of the rainfall distribution on some uniform basis. So in Kerala, the entire Kerala is covered by 1700 millimeter of evapotranspiration. And then as per the report, there were only 2 stations where it is monitored. Anyway, so my point is, this year's slogan is preserve glaciers, because this is money in the bank, money in the stock market. That is the point. Money which is in the form of water. How do we escape? Well, there is, we have very water intensive cultivation like sugarcane, like wheat, like rice paddy, happening wherever we have, mostly in North India or in eastern Maharashtra. What we have to do is we have to switch the crops. Well, you would remember, sir, you might remember that there was a suggestion that India should cultivate more of millets than rice and wheat and sugarcane. Well, of course, if you have a lot of sugarcane, you eat sugar, you finally end up as a diabetic. Whereas millet is just the opposite.